Lesson 17. The difficulties of Japanese. Preparation. Question 1. Have foreign students ever visited your high school? How did you spend your time together? Question 2. If you chose one Chinese character to express yourself, which would you choose and why? Question 3. How would you explain in English the meaning of your chosen Chinese character to exchange students learning Japanese? Maxim, you've been studying in Japan for 2 years now.
Yes, I'm on the master's program doing research on English education.
When did you start learning Japanese?
Since I was 18. When I was a child back in Russia, I read a children's book called Countries Around the World. For some reason, the page about Japan left a big impression on me. After I went to university, I found an elementary Japanese textbook by chance in a bookshop and started studying Japanese on my own.
Wow, so you came to Japan as a government-sponsored student after studying Japanese on your own. By the way, what do you find difficult about studying Japanese?
Above all, kanji.
Which kanji would you choose to express yourself?
Myself in one character. That's very difficult, but there is a kanji that represents what I want to become.
Which character is that?
If you read it the Japanese way, it's pronounced makoto. It's used in the Chinese word seijitsu, sincere.
Ah, that's a good kanji. I'd like to become Makoto too. By the way, Japanese onomatopoeia is difficult too, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know if an expression like kotsu, persistent, is expressing a sound or a state. Come to think of it, if I were to express you using onomatopoeia, I would choose kotsu.
Huh? Actually, I'd like to become someone who is kotsu. Aside from the writing and the vocabulary, what's difficult about Japanese grammar?
Polite expressions. Verbs expressing giving, like ageru and morau, became used in polite expressions like sashiageru and itadaku. Then requests like shite itadakemasu ka?
That's true. It takes time to get used to polite expressions in Japanese.
What do you find difficult other than polite expressions?
Wa and ga. I learned that wa is a topic marker for marking old information, and ga a subject marker marking new information, but it's difficult to use them correctly in practice.
It's like how using a and the is difficult in English.
Yes, that's why I think linguistics comparing Japanese and English is interesting, because it can allow us to see differences in language and cognition. It's our life work. Column. What kind of language is Japanese among the world's languages? According to an article by Dr. Kai L. Chan, Japanese is ranked the 8th most powerful language in the world because of its economic importance. English is ranked first, Mandarin Chinese second, and French third. So what do learners of Japanese find difficult about the language? We took a survey of foreign students at our university over a period of 5 years. The orthographic difficulty of Japanese is that Chinese characters, or kanji, have many different readings. Everyone has experienced writing furigana above their name or address to show the pronunciation at some point in their daily life. In fact, the habit of writing furigana is unique to Japan. This is because one kanji can have many readings, so that even Japanese people sometimes cannot read them. This is especially true for the names of people, places, and stations. By the way, Japan is the only country outside the Chinese-speaking world that uses kanji. Korean has lots of expressions originally from Chinese. But because it has a rich phonetic system, Korean words can be written phonetically without using kanji. So the characters are no longer used in Korea. Japanese vocabulary includes native Japanese words, words of Chinese origin, onomatopoeia and mimetics, and words originating in other languages. Words of Chinese origin, as well as onomatopoeia and mimetics, seem to be particularly difficult for learners of Japanese. In Japanese grammar, apart from honorific and humble expressions, the difference between wa and ga and the relationship between intransitive and transitive verbs are apparently difficult to learn. For example, the verb kimeru, determine, is a transitive verb. But in Japanese, the corresponding intransitive verb kimaru is used more often. However, there is no intransitive verb in English corresponding to determine. Instead, the passive form be determined is used. Japanese has the characteristics of an agglutinative language, meaning that affixes attach to words to express grammatical meaning. Affixes show the difference between intransitive and transitive. For example, try and analyze the following pair: kimeru and kimaru. What are the pair of affixes?
皆さんこんにちは。東京外国大学の望月恵子と申します。今日は第17課、実際にご紹介します。マキシムさん、そしてローレンスさん、このお二人の、エピソードをもとにこのレッスン17が書かれています。じゃあちょっと今日はあと座の、そしてどんな時何もつけないのかっていうことについてお伺いしたいと思います。例えば一番最初の例ですね。じゃあどうだろう、ローレンスさんにお願いします。
Okay, so the first example we're going to look at is the sentence, I read a children's book called Countries Around the World. So here we need to use a. Do you know why? The reason is that this is new information. When Maxim talks about this book, it's the first time. He hasn't mentioned it before. So to show that, we have to put a in this place.
じゃあ2つ目なんですけれども、どこだろう、マキシムさん。座がついてるところですよね。
Yes. So we have number 2. The page about Japan left a big impression on me. To be honest, I thought that there should be a, but because it is the first time that the page comes here, but why do we use the in this case?
Yes, that's a very good question. So you're right, this is the first time the word page has appeared. But we are already talking about the book. We're already talking about book, so things related to it like page or maybe cover, things like that, we have a connection, so we don't have to use, we use the in this case.
そうなんですね。前にもう本っていうのが出ていて、それがまあみんな聞き手も知っている情報だからっていうことで、その本に関わるページだとかっていうのは座になっちゃうということなんですね。はい、では3番目なんですけども、A government sponsored student ということで、実際にはお二人も government supported student なんですけど、どうしてここあなんでしょうか。
Okay, so here some of you might think you should use the, but if you use the here, it means that Maxim is the only one. But this is not the meaning we want to express.
うん、
By using a, we can tell the reader that he is one of many
うん、
students. So this is where a place where a is the most suitable.
うん、まあ、一人のっていう数と表してるんですね。で、4番目ですね。つかない場合っていうのがありました。リサーチということですね。これはどうでしょうか。
Yes, to be honest, this is probably the most difficult part for me because in my native tongue, the Russian language, there are no articles at all. So I struggle with articles as much as Japanese people do. And firstly, I read about a and the, but then I found out that there are some examples when there are no articles at all. Like in this sentence, I'm on the master's program doing research, the first one, on the English education. On English education, number 2. So, yes, could you explain that for us?
This is a tricky point. So I'm going to focus on the noun research today. So if you look in your dictionaries, you might see that research is a non-countable noun. You cannot say a research. You have to say a piece of research if you want to count research. So in front of these non-count nouns, you cannot use a. So this is why there is no article in this sentence.
そう、リサーチってまあなんか結構漠然としてますよね。研究なんですけども、だから不可算名詞でもし一つの研究っていうふうに言うと a piece of research と言わなければいけないそうです。ありがとうございました。じゃあ a piece of research どうぞ頑張ってください。
Thank you.
Thank you.